When you think of a demon, what do you think of? What comes to mind? What comes to heart? Probably something fearful, right? Something evil, something shameful, something you should avoid, something icky. I want to leave you for the next 30 seconds. What comes up for you? And comment below if you feel like sharing. What comes up for you when you hear the word demon? And whatever came up for you, can you trace that back to a personality trait, a personal fear, an insecurity, to some form of manifested lack of self-worth and esteem? Most likely, yes. A demon, the actual definition of demon, simply means lesser gods or guiding spirits. They work together, lesser gods and guiding spirits. Not meaning that they're less than, as in they are unworthy or bad or just less important. More so that they are aspects of the divine, different aspects of the divine needed for specific purposes, which is why they're also called guiding spirits. Okay? Nothing in that definition, when you really research it, until later on down the road, when people decided to demonize that word, which we're going to get to that word as well, demonizing. Nothing in that definition or practice or belief system looked at demons as though they were evil. They were guiding forces. Now, I have only had a recent transformational experience with demons within the last year. Okay. I've been a minister for a long time, and I never thought I'd be talking to demons and actually having conversations with them and having positive experiences with them. I went a long time being afraid of them, cautiously afraid, and separated myself from people who worked with them and aligned with them. And within the last year, I had Lilith coming to me, and I avoided her for a very long time. And I wasn't disrespectful to her. I just said, nope, not interested. Thanks, though. You can go now. And then within the last year, I had an experience where I was sitting. I had just gotten done feeding my son, and he fell asleep. And she came through again. And I did the same thing I did, and I was like, nope. And I literally heard her say, can you just listen to me for a second? And it was from that point forward, because after the fact, she said some things to me that were incredibly helpful and insightful and comforting, Now, she was no nonsense about it, but it was very comforting to hear her honest advice and encouragement for me to get out of my own way. And from then on, it was a fascination for me to dive a little bit deeper into this area that I was afraid of. And I just realized I say "and" a lot. Sorry. It's because I'm gathering my thoughts. And I've realized now since last year up until this point that demons are not what we think they are at all. They have different jobs. We forget that they are also angels. Okay? Now, some of y'all might have a belief of, well, they were angels that effed up. Okay, sure. I don't see it that way anymore. Now, do I believe there are spirits that are not necessarily helpful? Absolutely. I'm not saying there aren't spirits out there that, don't cause mischief or trouble or whatever. But, human beings are spirits too, which means spiritual warfare can happen between two or more people as well. So we need to take that into account when we're dealing with spiritual warfare, that warfare can come from the people you hang around with, right? So back to the jobs. Demons have different jobs, which is why their energy might come off a little bit harsher, a little bit more dense, a little bit darker, a little more between the eyes. Like they'll hit you like right between the eyes sometimes with information to help you. And that's because their job here is to help us work through our own shit. Their job is to liberate. So we can ascend and we can have a divine experience here on earth. But we can't do that when we have all this crap in our way. That's why they work with beings of the earth, and they are of the earth, because they realize how hard it is to live here sometimes. And so their energy is a little harsher feeling. Not that it is actually harsh, but that it feels that way, because it's almost like they're trying to be your personal trainer. So a personal trainer is not going to go easy on you. They're not going to let you make excuses. They're not going to let you lie to yourself. They're not going to let you give up easily. They're not going to ignore areas that you need to be stronger in. They're not going to ignore your crappy habits, because that's what they're there to help you with, right? That's what demons are for. That's what demons are here for. Not that that's what they're for, because, don't use them. Don't use and abuse them. I don't like the concept of people working with demons to control them. That just goes against everything I believe in about free will and freedom in general. And so if you're interested in working with demons, please do not do so under the intention of, I'm going to control this thing. Like, no, that's disgusting. That's sociopathic. Please don't do that. All right, because you wouldn't want that done to you. So don't do that to a spirit or have the intention of working with any spirits, gods, goddesses, spirit guides, under this idea that they work for you or with you. No, they guide you. They are assisting you. You still have free will and you still have your life to live, and they're not here to tell you what to do. They're just here to do their job, which is to help you and guide and all that stuff. But you still have the responsibility of taking that advice. And they are not your genies and your dogs, your lap dogs, okay? Like, no, don't do that. All right. I'm speaking on all of this first because it's something I've wanted to talk about a little more in depth. And it kind of ties into demonizing, which is what I'm going to talk about shortly. We've gotten it wrong, though, with demons. Demon has carried with it such negative, harsh, toxic energy for long enough, and we need to remember that these beings are angelic as well. And just because their energy feels a little darker does not mean they're evil. Dark does not mean evil. We were born in darkness. we grew in darkness before we came to the light. When we kiss someone we love, we close our eyes. When we meditate, we close our eyes. We fall asleep at nighttime because that's a time of rest and restoration, healing. dreaming. Darkness is necessary for growth. All things in the ground that have grown above ground had to go through that darkness first to get to the top, to get through to the light. And those plants are balanced between darkness and light because their roots are in the dark. Okay? So just because demons are darker does not mean they are evil. Their jobs are just different. I like to use the example of, a mortician. Um, Morticians will have different personalities and ways of approaching things, and even their humor might be a little different than ours. Their mindset is different than ours because they have to see dead people all the time, all kinds of deaths too, not just, oh, this person died peacefully in their sleep. Like, no, these people have to see dead kids, people who have been hit by cars, shot, you know, and they have to restore that body and return it to families. And there's a certain mindset you have to have around that. But in their everyday lives, they might have a totally different approach and an outlook that might seem a little darker, harsher. Um, yeah. And it's not because they're mean or they're dark or they're cold or whatever. It's just because they work in a realm that requires them to be this way. They see life differently because they work so heavily with death. Okay. So now, does that mean they're evil people? No. Just their job, their duty, and their earth walk is different. And the same thing goes for demons. I've had a lot of help from two very specific demonic spirits, and I'm very grateful for that. Lilith is the first. So actually three. Lilith is technically a demon. She's called lots of different things. Um, I like to look at her as a goddess as well, but she is definitely a demonic energy. But the other two that I've worked heavily with are Boor and Boone. And my first experience really calling on a demon was Boor when my son was very sick last year. And like we had to take him to the hospital. He had gotten a fever out of nowhere. He was throwing up. He couldn't keep medicine down. Like it was scary. And I knew that Boor was an entity of healing and health, right? And I just remembered holding my son while he was sleeping. He had finally fallen asleep for a little bit, and we were getting things packed to take him to the children's hospital. And I just cried. I was just like, Boor, I don't know you. I know I have nothing to offer right now, but can you please help my son? Please help my son feel better. Please help me know what to do to help him get better. And then all I heard was Wednesday. Wednesday. Like, he will be fine by Wednesday. And we took him to the hospital. We stayed overnight a night. He was getting better. And yeah, by that Wednesday, he was 100% better. It was like nothing happened. And I'm forever grateful for him and his wisdom. I've had a couple of sessions with him for a bit since then, and Boone as well. Boone has helped me regain my confidence. I'm still working on that with her, but she has helped me stand more in my truth, work on boundaries, and so much more. And these, these aren't entities that are telling me to do bad things, you know? In fact, they've called me out on things that I shouldn't be doing, you know? And I don't think anything of an evil nature would do that. So I say that, if there are those of you that have this pull towards that side of spirituality, proceed with caution and respect. Do your research. Um, don't enter this with a egotistical, arrogant mindset. Enter it with the mindset of, I want to become better in this earth walk. I want to become better as a human being. I want to get more disciplined in certain areas that I kind of suck at right now. And if you have certain names of certain entities that come to you a lot, maybe there's a purpose for that. So look them up and research why that energy might be surrounding you. And yeah. So I'm going to shift this conversation now into demonizing. I have dealt with demonizing for a long, long time. And that demonizing has led to a lot of personal guilt and shame and stress-induced decision making, people pleasing. Oh, 555. It's 5:55 a.m. as I am saying this right now and recording this. It led to a lot of inauthentic, stress-induced living. And I used to think that the demonizing was, calling out bad things about me, that there were things wrong with me, and I needed to look at those things. And I went so deep into looking more at my own self and what's wrong with me that I didn't stop to think for a while, well, maybe the people pointing the finger are also kind of fucked up. I've spent so much time picking myself apart and allowing other people's demonizing and accusations, slander, things like that to affect me and make me look at myself, which is okay because it helped me sift through things, right? But it almost became obsessive, like where I would always constantly try to find something wrong with me and didn't shift the responsibility enough to those who needed it. Because anytime I did speak out, even as of lately, within the last year, speaking out about things that hurt me led to gaslighting, stonewalling, arguments, um, and just a lot of drama and trauma. So this led me to go within and withdraw, only to realize that, now a year later, demonizing is a curse. These people that point their fingers are using their pointed fingers as wands of destruction to set you on fire and burn away who you are, because who you are threatens them and forces them to look at their own inauthenticity. Because the definition of demonize actually means to defame and to slander, to blacken someone's reputation. And going deeper at its root, it actually meant to subject another person to demonic influence or, evil influence. Because obviously, after everything I just said, demons are not what we think they are. But therefore, just going from that definition, excuse me, to demonize someone is to curse them, is to subject them to your own demons, is to try to influence them with your own darkness, your own unprocessed darkness, your own unhealed shadow. Because, yeah, thoughts and words are spells. You don't need fancy candles and a big old altar and a statue and specific incense and a certain incantation to cast a spell. You can cast a spell with your thoughts. You can cast a spell with your words. With enough charge behind them, you could do a lot of either damage or you could bless, right? You could bless or curse, you could heal, you can harm, you can create or destroy, just with those alone. So every time someone has demonized me, I realized that I did let it affect me because I would get gut wrenching feelings. That's hitting my solar plexus, my sacral chakra, my ability to create, feel joy, and be powerful and confident. Or I would feel something in my head. So that would disrupt my thoughts, my own ideas. I would get drained. So now that was robbing me of my energy. That's because I was letting it. One of the things that Boone taught me is that you cannot be ashamed. Hold on a second. You cannot be ashamed unless you have shame. No one can shame you unless you already feel shame about something. So work on that. Work on the areas that you feel shame. And this way, people can't keep demonizing you, and you won't keep succumbing to that monster that people make you out to be. Now, I'm not perfect. This is not me saying that I'm perfect or you're perfect. But you're not a monster, okay? We've seen monsters, monstrous people, all right? I don't think you're one of them just because you make mistakes or you had a bad call, your judgment was off at some point, or you hurt somebody with your words or whatever. Like, I don't think you're a monster. I'm not a monster, even though people have made me out to be and probably still talk crap about me now because that's all they know how to do. And I've realized that too, is a lot of these people that demonize, they cluster together. You know, they cluster together and they create this energy of fear and depression and something to always look for, like a problem to always look for, when they could be using that energy to solve problems, to live healthier and better and happier. And instead, they want to feed this narrative of fear and look for these demons under the bed all the time together. And anyone outside of their cluster that tells them, hey, that's a little weird. Why are you living like that? They're demonic. you know? And I just don't subscribe to that anymore. I'm not, like, again, not perfect, but I'm also not believing that just because I have lived imperfectly that I should live a life of hell and misery now for the rest of my life. And neither should you. So just remember that when people demonize you, they can only do so with your permission. And it's a spell, it's a curse. Don't allow it. Don't buy it. Don't buy into it. Don't feed it. But if it does bring up shame within you, realize that these people demonizing you are helping you grow stronger, because wherever you still have shame and guilt and fear, they're pointing a spotlight right on it, trying to curse you with it, trying to keep you wrapped in it. But if you can catch it and say, okay, this is an area I need to work on, the demonizing dissolves, its power disintegrates, and you become stronger. You become brighter and more rooted as well. So I hope this found and fed you the way it was meant to. I love y'all so very much. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, please comment below. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.